How soon did you get into real estate after you moved here?
2006. So when I got here in '05, I worked at the motel for a year, and I took like licensing and stuff. But then, yeah, year later, that was what I was doing.
Because everybody
So
can make $1 million selling real estate.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
What?
Easy money, right?
But seriously though, is that why you got into it? Because you thought that, or somebody said, "Hey, I remember you said 2006, so like whatever 2008 or whatever." Because I dipped my toe in the water there,
Yeah.
and remember Bob Lyman?
Yeah,
What a good dude.
yeah,
God, what a great dude. But he looked right at me and said, "Hey, you could easily make 50 grand a year." And in 2008, 2009,
right,
I was like, 50 grand a year here selling real estate.
right.
I'll go get my license.
Yeah, run it.
And I never sold anything.
Yeah, it's hard.
Nothing.
It's hard.
It was a grind, dude.
It is a grind. It's still a grind. 17 years later.
Yeah,
Grind.
grind.
Yeah.
Well, why did you get into it?
Well, I'm going to keep it simple on that because at the time, I didn't know anyone here, really. I mean, I knew a select few people.
Yeah.
Not a ton of places to work at that time here. So it was kind of, you work for yourself, essentially. And I could learn the area, and I could meet people that way. So it just made sense at the time, just to get into something that I've never done before.
Plus, you were working. You had a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And for a long time, you had a job and sold real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I worked at the boathouse
Yeah.
and bartended for a few years, at least. I don't even know how long, but yeah. And then that was cool, too, because you get to meet a bunch of people there, and they're like, oh, you do real estate. Yeah.
And I feel like for a while there, everybody was trying to get into real estate and not understanding the
feel
actual
like that.
grind.
I still feel like that.
Because if you don't have any money, right? Let's just, in my mind, if you don't have any money, getting into real estate's the wrong thing to do.
It's tough if you don't have
I
a
mean, if you're
nest
just
egg.
trying to be an agent, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to market yourself, you got to buy all the stuff, you got to.
Right. No one knows that that's what you do yet.
Yeah.
And it takes time. I always say it takes 5 years, no matter what you're doing, for everything to come together. So even new agents out there that haven't been doing it that long, give it time, right? Because over time it snowballs. People recognize your name and so forth. So it just takes time.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you don't have a nest egg,
Because you're. This episode is brought to you by Brandon Ball, broker owner of Dwelling Realty in Manistee, Michigan. Listen, are you looking to sell your home? Then look no further. When you list with Brandon Ball, you'll get a trusted advisor who will guide you through the entire selling process. With extensive knowledge of the local market, he'll help you price your home competitively to attract the right buyers. And with proven market strategies, your home will be seen by the most qualified buyers. With his 17 years in the business, you'll have someone who's experienced and on your side. Contact Brandon today to get started selling your home. 231-690-4981 or Brandon at dwellingrealty.com. This episode is brought to you by Just Clean, Manistee's premier car wash located at 146 Cleveland Street or just north of the US 31 bridge. Look, if you're anything like me, you're not going to spend an hour or two in the hot summer sun in your driveway trying to wash your vehicle. I don't have time for that. So I always take my truck to Just Clean. I choose their ultimate car wash, which includes a triple foam conditioner, a ceramic coating plus wax, and a 60-second heated blow dry. They are the only car wash in town offering the ceramic coating. For my money, I choose Just Clean, and I hope you do too. You're going to burn through it if you do anyways.
yeah,
I think.
I mean, plan on, spending money and only spending money for a while.
When did it snap for you?
I don't know, actually. I
Yeah.
really don't. I worked at another firm for a long time, and I, again, wanted to try something different, and I kind of just made the decision one day. I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. And I think that was actually when it clicked for me, because it was full accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I couldn't blame anything on anyone else. It was all my doing and whatever I did, those are the results I would get. So sometimes you need that. I needed it at the time. I know that. So, I felt like I was good at what I do before that, but that really like made it come together, right?
You had more accountability too, because now you've got agents underneath your license.
Yeah.
You know, that you're, in some cases, are super new, like you were back in the day, and then you're trying to guide them and mentor them and help grow their book of business.
Right.
And selfishly, it's for you too.
We have great agents though too.
Yeah.
They know a lot of people. They're very good at what they do. Very little what do you say?
Yeah, you don't need to guide their hand.
Not really.
Yeah.
No. I mean, we have a great group, We all get along really well. It's just like a really good setup. I love it, actually. Really happy with it.
My dad works for you.
Yeah. Awesome guy.
Yeah.
Love him.
Always somebody to have a cigarette with. He'll appreciate that part of that.
It's cool because like everyone comes in at different parts of the day too.
Yeah.
Like that's their schedule because they work for themselves essentially, right? He's the early morning guy. And then Jermaine's there, and then Chris kind of lives far away. But he comes in and he's the next person in, and I don't know. It's cool. I get to see everyone every day, and I don't know. We all get along really well, and I think it works well.
I like that accountability thing, that you said there, because it's huge. It's the thing that kind of puts you over the, I want to do this thing. It's scary. It's just kind of like opening up any business.
Right.
Like for me, it was from the gate. It was almost sink or swim. Because we, like I've said it before, we bootstrapped this whole thing, and there was a time when we were getting ready to open and putting like literally our last dollar of savings in.
Right.
This has got to work day one, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So kind of the same for you, because I'm sure you took what you could take with you in terms of what was in the bank account.
Mm-hmm.
You opened up, you put your sign up, and now it's like,
real.
I'm not just waiting for the phone. Not to say that you just waited for the phone to ring, but I mean, like you were working for a company that was larger,
right,
in scale. So people look to that company because it's got name recognition.
Yep.
And then you were leaning solely on just who you are.
Right.
Which is kind of a dirtbag.
I know.
Joking.
Like, why would that even work? But a completely brand new name, brand. I always relate it to like, you're just jumping off a cliff and just putting your parachute together on the way down and hoping that you put it together in time before you hit the ground, right?
I mean, for a lot of small businesses, it's that way.
Yeah, and I think everyone can relate to that. I mean, at some level, It's funny because the real estate business isn't really that much different from any other business. I mean, you have income, you have expenses, you have advertising dollars, you have, all of the same scenarios going on. People always think, it's just you get commission and then you get this big paycheck and now you can do whatever, and that's not the case, like that paycheck's spent before we got it, I don't know. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And it's funny, too, because, like, HGTV and all these real estate shows.
Oh, God. My favorites, though.
Yeah.
I love watching them.
I like Rock the Block.
I haven't seen that one.
It's good. It's, like, one of the competition ones. So they have people that host the different shows, and they come together, and they're each a team. And they, like, get a blank slate, like, white box house. And whoever's worth the most at the end wins. So they have to add value with the same amount of money that they're given.
That's interesting.
It's actually really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But none of that shit's like for real, though. It can't be. I watch some of those shows where the agent's on the phone with the buyer and the seller, and they're working out this deal, and they're like, hey, man, you got to move on this or it's going to be gone tomorrow. And they're like going back and forth. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think that's maybe it's a Michigan thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like that in other places, But I mean, the first thing they teach you is like no verbal real estate contract is ever valid.
Right.
So on the phone, you can say whatever you want, I guarantee you they get a piece of paper that says something slightly different than what they talked about.
Yeah.
Because, that's why that stuff isn't binding, because you can say whatever you want. And, that doesn't happen a lot either. I think you hear all these horror stories about, people that did real estate deals that went south and terrible, and that's rare. It doesn't happen a lot. So.
And part of that's probably because of all the laws.
Yeah, I mean, they're there for a reason,
Yeah.
And there's so many moving parts and so many people involved in a transaction that, even if one person is just terrible at their job, it still goes okay because there's all these other people involved, So, although I don't like when that happens, right?
Sure.
Like, I want it to go smooth for everyone, but sometimes it just can't.
You want every deal to close as soon as possible.
Well, I want it to
Correctly.
be whatever the timeline is for the people that are actually moving and doing those things.
Yeah.
For me, I don't really care. It's just whatever they need. That's the important part. And I think, we lose that, especially with all these shows. And, they think, hustle, hustle. But that's not really the case, right?
Right.
Like, if somebody needs 2 weeks to move out after they sell their house, we try to make that happen because moving sucks. Let's be realistic, Like, it's not an easy thing to do.
And your customers are human.
Yeah.
And they either expect what they see on TV, I would assume, or, you're dealing with a myriad of emotions for a sale or a purchase. Probably more for sales. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say more on the selling side. People are more attached to their,
Yeah.
And it's hard to let go sometimes. But, again, every one of them is different. They have some of the same parts, but they're all different, and we try to navigate the best we can to make it good for both parties, right? It's the same with, like, value and things, It's like basically it's very trivial to say, what is my house worth, Because it's kind of like, I don't know, what is it worth to you, but what is it worth to somebody else?
Right.
Can you guys come together somewhere in there? Because that's really the definition of what your house is worth. It's like whatever somebody's willing to sell it for and whatever somebody's willing to pay for.
Yeah.
So we got to, there isn't a concrete way to say this is exactly what it is. Unless you live in some cookie cutter neighborhood where all the houses are the same and you can say, hey, it's X amount of square feet times, $200 or whatever.
Or whatever it is.
Which, is...
This market, but so I feel like in the last few years it's been like the Wild West.
It
Like,
has been.
Nobody knows. You're the expert. I don't know. Like, how much is a house worth? And I don't know. It varies on where it's at. But
Right.
It seemed like in the last couple of years, dude, if that house was $100,000, it was selling for 250.
Yeah.
300.
Yeah.
Like, how do you do that?
Again, it's what somebody's willing to pay for it. And that is just how it went. COVID was an interesting time for our business.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
It was
like,
very interesting because people were buying things without even seeing them in person, and we worried about that the whole time and saying, oh man, these people are going to get here and it's not going to be what they expected, and actually most people were really happy with their purchase, so like it's still continuing somehow.
Well, I still feel like if something, it might have slowed a little bit, but I feel like if there's something that's listed residentially, it's popping.
Yeah, actually, Jim and I yesterday were talking, and he searched, just houses in the city for sale without offers on them or anything like that, just in the city of Manistee, and there was only 7.
So then you wonder, why are they still for sale?
I mean, even at that, it's like, all right, well, I have at least 7 people looking for a house in town.
Yeah.
How many does Jim have? How many does Jermaine have? How many does Chris have? How many does my mom have? There's only 7 houses, and this is just within our office. Now, say we got 50 people that are looking for a house in town,
So,
just within our office.
So right there, we have a housing shortage.
Right, that's the free market telling us that, hey, this house that used to be $100,000 is $200,000 now, because there's only 7 of them. You know,
They want,
it's like gold. You know, like there's only so much of it, right?
yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting scenario we're watching play out, and we're living it. You know, especially being in that business, like we live it every day, and it's
It also has to be a little bit scary if you're looking at your team and the number of people that you guys have looking for houses,
yeah,
and there's only 7.
sure.
That they're not coming out of thin. I mean, is construction going up? New construction, I guess.
I mean, around here, I'm sure it is in other areas, but I mean,
Yeah.
people build houses here all the time, but they build them for themselves, and uh, you know, they're very expensive houses. It's not something that somebody's going to build 35 houses in a neighborhood and you're going to be able to buy one of them when they're finished. You know, there's not a lot of that happening. Joslyn Cove is a good example of that.
Yeah.
You know, because they're building those condos and they're selling before they're finished, and they're really nice.
Yeah.
And you know, in the grand scheme of things, they're still fairly affordable compared to if you wanted to go out and build a house like that. That would, you know, that would be double.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure in other areas they're doing this, but I don't see anyone building a row of houses anywhere.
Well, I know, and then like I think on my list it was like affordable housing has been a hot topic in Manistee for a while now.
Right.
But so if we don't have housing, and we have to build housing to accommodate for that,
Sure.
and not everybody wants to live in an apartment,
Sure.
right?
Right.
So at $150 a square foot, probably conservatively right now,
Yeah, I
At
don't
a
know that you could. Yeah,
1,500 square foot house,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, is that affordable? I mean, who are we talking to, really?
Well,
you
and
know
that's
what I mean?
the thing. It's like affordable is kind of a.
It's just
You
a
know, I'm not a
magical
lawyer,
word.
but
Yeah.
I mean, it's up for interpretation, right? Like
Yeah.
something that's affordable for one person is not the same for another person, right? So you can't blanket solve that.
No, I don't think you can either.
And you know, the apartment thing too, it's kind of like, you know, we're kind of stuck in our ways where you think like, oh, if I move into this apartment, that's where I live now.
Yeah.
When really, why don't you take 2 years, rent this apartment, save some money? We don't know what's going to happen in the real estate market.
That's a good point.
You know, there's indicators, but why don't you do that for 2 years, save up some money, and then if an opportunity presents itself, there you go. Now you can make a move, you know? Don't just do it on a whim. And things can be temporary, even, especially like in this market right now.
Yeah.
I've had people say, you know, this condo isn't the exact one that we wanted to buy, but we're going to buy it. And we're going to start coming here and staying here and hanging out here with the notion that we're going to keep looking for the one that actually
want.
pops up that we want. And we know that since demand is so high and there's no supply,
You'll be able
we
to sell
can
it.
sell this one
Yeah.
again and at least get their money back. So it's very interesting. You know, there's a lot of different segments in a market too that people don't understand.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, you know, we call them price ranges or whatever you want to call it. I call it segments. You have buyers for certain things, right? So I'm breaking down those 7 houses in town that are for sale that don't have an accepted offer on them. How many of those are under $200,000? You know,
Yeah.
if I have 6 people that need to buy something under $200,000, which, you know, is, you know, I think what the median in Manistee County is like $236,000. That's like the average sale price.
That seems so high to me, though.
It is, but it's an average.
Yeah.
Right? There's really expensive houses. There's really, really inexpensive houses sometimes, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of those anymore. But we sold a ton of those in like 2008, 9, 10. You know, those people are in great positions now.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, you know, what they're probably jumping around celebrating, you know?
Yeah, they're celebrating, but they also have to move that equity. You know what I mean? So if they're going to move
Right.
and find another place, odds are that what they take out of the house isn't
Right.
going to be enough
Right.
for the next house.
Right.
There's still more money that has to go in, or another mortgage,
Right.
or whatever.
But they've created wealth.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I
their
agree.
assets have
Yeah.
appreciated so much.
Yeah.
They don't have to. I've actually seen people sell their house in this scenario and like downsize and just pay cash.
Yeah.
because the market was so competitive that if you didn't pay cash, you weren't getting anything.
Right.
But I've also seen where people said the same thing as you, and they were like, yeah, I'm not really interested in getting out of my, 3.25% interest rate loan and buying something smaller that's going to cost me more every month.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll have a bunch of cash in the bank because I'm going to sell my place, but I'm just going to deplete that
Sure.
over time by spending more on this, downsize somehow. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen as far as inventory goes, because there's those scenarios, right? Like, do you sell your house and downsize? I mean, that used to be a segment of the market.
Yeah.
Is that happening? I don't know. I just don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, like our vision is to, once the kids are done with school,
Mm-hmm.
We would probably leave, not the county, but move more out county
Mm-hmm.
in a smaller place with a little bit of land or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people, in our category might look to do that once the kids get a little bit older.
Yep.
But I do see like this is where people are buying their second home and retiring up here, and I see it every year since we've opened the store. We've built relationships with people that live here part-time,
Mm-hmm.
plan to retire here or have retired here. And I don't begrudge those people. I love those people. We've made some great relationships. And I think sometimes, that those that have lived here their whole life or most of their life, they kind of get upset that these people are coming to the community and buying up the real estate. But I don't necessarily think it's all of them either. There was a moment in time, I think, where a lot of younger people just took advantage of the market.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Even people that are from here
Mm-hmm.
that live in other cities now were like, well, we can work remotely. Let's buy a place up there.
Mm-hmm.
Inventory was less expensive here than it is in Grand Rapids or name another big city.
Oh, yeah.
And people are just scooping it up. And I think it's still that way.
I think so too. And you got to keep in mind that a lot of the people that buy second homes here, they're going to end up living here eventually
Right.
anyway. I mean, that's usually, if you're buying a second home up north, or say even in Florida,
Yeah.
right, you're going to end up living there at least half of the time, right? So I'm not from here, right?
I mean,
live
but you're
here,
from here, kind of.
but
you're not, but you've been here long enough.
yeah, right. But like those people are going to be here long enough too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of
what
the
I feel.
point,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people coming here and look at everything that they're building. There's people out there that are a lot smarter than me, crunching numbers,
Yeah.
and if they don't see
Value.
that, they're not doing what they're doing, right? So, I don't know.
I say that all the time when I look at some of these like big developments.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they're not coming here unless the numbers work. If we're looking at millions of dollars being
Right.
inserted into a community for one development,
Right,
it's because the numbers work.
right.
So I mean that's important too.
And people call it a renaissance, right? Like, it's like a renaissance period.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you can see people get all bent about, oh, we don't need this, we don't need that. But again, it's not an opinion, right?
Right.
Like, they're not building these things because they're like, oh, you know what, everyone wants this,
That's it's not an opinion.
No.
Yeah.
It's backed by information, you know what I mean, that says, hey, this can work here, right? So, and we can still have our opinions, obviously,
Sure.
right? Like, I'm not saying don't have an opinion, because that's not the case.
Right.
I'm not always as optimistic as I would like to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Same here.
I'm cynical, just like
Yeah.
everyone. But again, they have the information.
Yeah.
They get to decide whether or not it works for them or not, and I'm glad, because again, here, let's talk about housing again for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So all of these places opening, it's not like we have super high unemployment here. So like, where are the workers, right? I mean, my first go-to, because this is what I live, is people are going to be moving here to work at these places, right? So housing shortage now, what are we going to do in 2 years? Like, how is that going to look?
I mean, for real, I think about it every day.
I have no idea what that looks like.
Yeah.
And even if we built 100 houses tomorrow,
That's not enough.
I don't think it is. I mean, with everything that is happening, right?
Yeah.
And I know, like, people are cynical about, well, you can't just move here for that job, right? But people do that.
And people have done that.
People have done that forever, right? So, yeah, I don't know how this is going to play out. I think, like, when you watch the news and you see, like, real estate news, it doesn't actually reflect what's happening here.
Right.
Because, first off, real estate is location specific, right? They always say location, location, location. But it really is. I mean, I can't compare a house for sale in Manistee to one in Scottville and say, oh, well, yours should be this much because this one over here is
right.
this much. That's too far away. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, like I was, I've been using this analogy about the accordion, kind of how the city of Manistee's kind of, been like this over a few decades. It's seen some growth, and it's come back down, and it's seen some growth. And, I was talking to somebody yesterday about that very analogy, and they said it feels more bigger now. I've lived here my whole life, give or take a few years. And it does feel bigger now. So to your question, to your point about where are the people going to come and then where are they going to stay?
Where are they going to live?
It's super interesting to think about. Some people will say, well, like the labor pool is just going to move around. Some businesses are going to lose staff, and then that group of laborers is going to go and work someplace else. So some will have more, some will have less, but it'll kind of work itself out. Because, like you said, there's no place for them to live right now.
Right.
So where are they going to come from? And I think it's just going to come from within to start with, and then we're going to be thin. It's going to be thin everywhere. Mm-hmm. But then, I guess I should say, it depends on what labor pool you're looking at. If you're looking at entry-level customer service, restaurant staff, hotel staff, that pool is going to be pretty thin. We've got more restaurants opening.
Right. Like a lot.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
So where are all those restaurant workers going to come from?
Right.
I could just see lines again, like as soon as the floodgates were open.
Right.
When the pandemic, it was kind of eased and you could go back to restaurants. And do you remember when Memorial Weekend was live here, but shut down south?
Yeah.
You couldn't do shit, and everybody was coming up here.
Yeah.
And
it was amazing.
It was crazy, and the people, I've never seen, it was like a tidal wave of human flesh just rolling into Manistee.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy.
And even though we have more places opening up with less staff at these places, it's still going to be like lines everywhere.
Right.
And that's definitely something that I got to believe it's figure outable.
Yeah, right? Like, again, like, just as the hotel as an example, right? Like, they still have all the data, right? So they know how many people live here. They know how many people are working. They know who works where. They have a plan, right? Yeah. Restaurants, that's tougher, I think. I mean, because that's just a tough business to be in. So, again, lines, I'm the first guy to be like, man, this line is bullshit, right? But at the same time, like, I'm not upset. I'm gonna wait in it, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to go there, Yeah. And I'm particular, right?
Sure.
So like, I'm gonna wait in the line. When I go out of town, I go to Grand Rapids. You can't just show up somewhere and be like, hey, a table for 4. They're gonna be like, for when? Like a month from now? Like, come on. I remember going to Rockwell Republic and just walking in, like, had some cocktails, right?
Yeah.
And just being like, there's 3 of us, and they're like, dude at the bar was like, I'm leaving. That guy can scoot down. And it was just people in the restaurant, right? Like, there's nobody that was working there, because people that were working there were just overwhelmed,
Sure.
right? dude left. One guy moved over. We had 3 seats at the bar and had food at the bar though.
Yeah.
But that's like super lucky. You can't do that anywhere else,
No.
you know?
No.
So, you know, you gotta keep your composure when that happens here, because it's gonna happen, like you said.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's just gonna be the nature of the beast, right? Like you have to grow at some point. Everything is. Again, land, they don't make any more of it.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a island volcano or something, I guess. But
God, every time I see a restaurant in the summertime, though, dude, down here, I'm like, good God, I'm glad I just sell booze.
right,
I mean, that's just
that's a
on
tough
11
business.
all the time.
Always. And you know, hungry people is that
Yeah.
not the friendliest people. You know.
No. I think there was a moment in time where people really appreciated service when we were going through what we were going through a couple of years ago.
Right.
You know, and people were calmer and they were like, we get it. You're working hard.
Right.
You're here to hook us up.
Right.
But humans, the synapse
Yeah.
can change in a second, dude. And say,
Oh, yeah.
that's over with. I want my T-bone
Now. Yeah. And I want it how I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know,
Don't
I'm
be
sure
rude.
it's like that in every business to some
Yeah.
extent, but
Yeah.
like I just feel like the food industry is just it's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough business. So but I'm happy that everybody is like wanting to do new restaurants
Yeah.
at the same time. It's like awesome. Go, you know?
Yeah, we've got
Do
some
it.
real cool stuff coming.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm happy for what's here,
Mhm.
and I'm happy for the new thing. You know, I'm always on here talking about how happy I am for these places, but you know, I mean, all I do is work and work out. So I mean, you know, when it's time to punch out, I just go home and hang out with Betsy. But
Right.
I do need to try to make sure I get out and check out these spots and hang. I'm really like kind of pumped for that whole rooftop situation down at the Hampton.
Yeah, right.
What?
Right.
That's gonna be sick.
I mean, and then so I just read in the paper, there's the Sunset Grill that's going in the concession stand.
The First Street Beach
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And like I'm sure there's like some negative comment somewhere about it, you know, but how can you not be excited about that? You know, like that's impossible.
I mean, like yeah, well, why would it suck?
Right. And like they're like, oh, there's a hotel going across the street that has a restaurant,
Sure, but not everybody's gonna go in there.
and maybe they don't want to eat that every day of the week.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just that's gonna be amazing.
You know, just like Lake Gulls at
Right.
Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
You know, Kendra's
good.
doing an amazing job.
Lobster rolls,
Dude.
get out of here.
When-
So good.
I'll just go there for lunch.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like. This episode is brought to you by Just Clean, Manistee's premier car wash located at 146 Cleveland Street or just north of the US 31 bridge. Look, if you're anything like me, you're not going to spend an hour or two in the hot summer sun in your driveway trying to wash your vehicle. I don't have time for that. So I always take my truck to Just Clean. I choose their ultimate car wash, which includes a triple foam conditioner, a ceramic coating plus wax, and a 60-second heated blow dry. They are the only car wash in town offering the ceramic coating. For my money, I choose Just Clean, and I hope you do too. I tell the squad, hey, I'm going to go down to Lake Gulls. What do you want? You can
Right.
order online, which is not horrible,
Right.
you know, and then just go there and pick it up.
Love it.
Yeah, because her shit is fire.
Yeah.
And she makes things there for people that like are more plant-based and stuff like that,
Yeah.
which is rad.
Yeah.
And I'm totally
Options.
down. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Options. When before you had to take, you know, a bunch of sandy food to the beach. You
Oh,
just
yeah.
walk over there and eat.
Some nasty sandwich.
Yeah.
Like
I love it.
Mhm.
I mean, convenience, whatever, and it's
Mhm.
good. It's not like you're going and just getting like a boiled hot dog.
Right.
There's a restaurant at the beach, and now there's going to be another restaurant at First Street Beach.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Although I did it was in that same article. They had mentioned the people that are going to be running this place. They had
Mhm.
mentioned about wanting to maybe get a liquor license.
Yeah.
And that would be ballsy on the city, because they're
Yeah.
renting or leasing that space.
The city would have to own the license, I imagine.
Right, dude.
Yeah.
But then, like, the liability for the city.
But don't they apply for all the DDA licenses?
Yeah, but that's
it's
not
been
a
a while
DDA.
since Yeah, I understand that, but so they already have liability.
I mean, I
They-
guess,
you
but
know.
like, so for example, I might, you know, I've got so much data up here that spills
Yeah,
out. I don't
hard
know.
drive's full.
It is, dude. But I think that those redevelopment licenses are still paid for. Like if I needed one, right?
Right.
Like I would spend the 20 grand for the license.
Yep.
And it would be my license.
Right.
But it just stays with the property.
Correct.
So I think that because the city owns that property, if they got the license, they would assume all the liability.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm the first to
Somebody
admit
correct
that's
me.
outside the scope of what I understand.
Yeah.
I don't know how that stuff works. I can only do so much, right?
I saw a rad comment though. Hey, listen, I hope they get a license. I hope that the thing is sick. It already sounds like it's going to be awesome.
I see like those big like yard. I don't know why, like New Orleans,
type
you know,
of shit
like,
I'm
yeah,
talking
like a
about.
big
The big
frozen,
tube.
yeah, and like some knucklehead walking around, like
This is exactly what people
meathead.
don't want.
yeah, I know, but like that's hilarious to me, and like,
Oh, God.
it's just a different vibe, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the beach is quiet time right now at First Street anyway. Like,
Right,
you
right,
go
right.
there and it's not quiet time,
No.
right? In the summer, like it's just not.
It's
you know?
wild.
It
People
never
are wild
really
now.
has been.
Well, that's like when I was reading, and then I'm reading on Facebook, and then somebody commented, "Well, don't you already take all the beer and everything to the beach when you go?"
yeah,
I mean, good point. I do too.
sure, I do too.
But when you run out, but also
Yeah,
I'm going to be
exactly.
delivering, by the way.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go.
So,
Yeah,
you can always just order online at Manistee Beverage, and I'll come and bring it down.
yeah. I can always
Start
hop
soon.
on the cart and come back and
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, we circle back to convenience.
right.
Dude,
Well, and you know, like we call it convenience, but like again, like if I shift back to like real estate, we call
Yeah.
it quality of life, right? Like that's why people want to live here.
Yep.
So like you have all these different options of things that just make your life better, you know? So kudos to the town for actually like getting to this point. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like other people see that. You know, they say, "Oh, I'm really impressed with what Manistee's doing." And, you know, again, there's negativity surrounded by these things, but other people from other areas can see the positive impact
Yeah.
that everything's having, you know?
I think when you see the negativity, it's just because those are the people that their voices they're like yelling.
Oh, yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what
all
I mean?
caps.
All caps. They're yelling. Look at
I'm like,
me.
calm down,
You know,
caps lock.
You know, it caps lock. You know, most people don't like just sit there and do like awesome, like good comments all day long.
Right.
You know, it's the negative people that just kind of everywhere.
Yeah. And you might even have the same mix, you know? Like you
Yeah.
have the same people that say all the negative things, and you have the
Yeah.
same people that say all the positive things, but
Yeah.
it's all the people who don't say anything that make up the majority.
That's right. That's a good point.
So
that's a great point.
it's all good. And remember, there's an average for a reason. You know,
There's-
there's highs and lows. You know?
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, I mean, what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be going into the second quarter of 2023? You know, as we get, like we were saying, we got the 7 houses for sale in the city, but yeah, we have all these positive things popping off.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get somebody to sell and move away from here right now with everything that's happening? I mean, that seems difficult,
Yeah.
right? No, I don't know. I think the biggest struggle, and it has been for the last 2 quarters, is finding houses that people want to sell. I mean, it's a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. You know, I watch financial markets, and I try not to doom and gloom when I watch them.
Have you heard of FTX? I just put a bunch of money in with that guy, and I think it's going to pop.
Yeah. Tom Brady threw you a bone on that? Yeah, crypto, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I don't know how we're going to get any more houses on the market.
Yeah.
Volume-wise. And, you know, it'll be spring, right? We're still seasonal area. So spring, yeah, more houses will come on the market just because that's just how it goes, right? But is there going to be that many, really? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see some big influx of, like, people that have been waiting for 9 months to put their house on the market.
right.
Like, that's not happening. I just don't see that happening. It doesn't make any sense. So, struggle for, I'm going to just not even call it quarter 2. I'm going to call it 2023 is, if you want to sell your house, it's a great time to sell your house here. I understand that there's not a lot to buy.
Yeah.
So you got to weigh those options out. But man,
Well, I mean, I think
there-
your renting analogy was a good one too. Um,
yeah, find something temporary. Doesn't have to be forever.
yeah, put
You
the
don't
money
have
in
to
the
get your
bank.
forever home right now, and it's expensive right now.
Yeah.
So we don't know that it's always going to be that way. We don't know that it's not always going to be that way either. But again, play it safe. Get something temporary. See how it plays out.
There was a couple of things I wanted to ask you before we wrap this up. Was what would you say to somebody who's thinking about trying to get into real estate right now? And then also, what would you say to somebody who's, we can come back to this question. You can pick which one you want to start with first, but like, what would you say to somebody who's looking to buy a house? Forget about the way the market is right now. Kind of talk about like what they need. If they need financing, what they need to do before they come and talk to an agent. How prepared should they be? Because everybody just wants to look at houses. Like, hey, I want to buy a house. So let's go call
Start
an agent.
looking.
Where should they start?
Get your ducks in a row. If there isn't a house on the market that you want to buy right now, it's going to come up, and when it comes up, you have to be ready that day. Get your ducks in a row. Get your financing in order. Do your taxes. Get your stuff ready.
Don't buy anything on credit.
Don't make any big purchases. Don't quit your job and get a new job.
Yeah, see, this is all good information. Why not start a new job? Why not quit your job if you don't like it? Start a new job when you're looking for a house.
So there's certain lending programs that require that you have been at your job for X amount of time. So if you say you actually are buying a house, you have an accepted offer, you went through the process, you had your inspections done, you had the appraisal done, you're getting close to getting to the end, and you get offered a new job and whatnot, and it's a great job and everything. So you quit your job and you take this new job right before you close. The bank is going to know that you did that, and they're going to require that you work there for 2 months. And now what? Now you've spent all this money trying to buy the house. You have all your ducks in a row, and now you're at a standstill. And, maybe you just didn't even know. And that's usually the case. Like, people just don't know. Again, those are things that pop up,
Yeah.
and we joke sometimes. We're like, oh, come on, what are you doing? But they don't know, right?
Right.
So it's all about us getting that information out there to people so that they know. Again, don't make a big purchase, especially if you're in the process. Don't use your credit card and buy a bunch of furniture for your new house yet. Wait until you own the house, then go right ahead and do that, But the whole reason your lender is extending this credit to you is because it's available. So if you take that away, it may or may not be available still. So
Yeah, find out what you can get approved for.
Yeah.
Find out how much your down payment needs to be. Don't buy anything else on credit.
yeah, get your ducks in a row. Be ready to jump on something when it comes up, because if you're not ready, someone else is getting that. Because there's 17 people in line looking for the same thing that you are.
Well, probably more than that.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah, probably
spitting
100
numbers
people.
out. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And again, there's other offices here that have multiple agents, that have multiple clients, and I don't know how many people there are, but I'm sure there's a lot waiting for the exact same thing. And if you're not ready, you're not going to get it. Even if you're ready, it's hard to get. Still, like COVID,
Yeah.
we're back. Multiple offers.
No
Over asking price. And how high do you go, right?
And interest rates are higher.
Interest rates are higher. There's always the person out there that has the cash that you're
Yeah.
competing against. Because they're like, man, I've made offers on 7 houses. I haven't got a single one. I'm just going to pay cash on this one. We'll figure out how to do it. We're going to make it work. And they
Wow.
have their ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And you can win against a cash offer if you are getting financing. It's just you have to know how to do that.
Yeah, but it's still loan to value though, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
like somebody with cash is just bidding higher and higher and higher, and then the person who's getting a mortgage is got to look at it and say, all right, well the bank's only going to give me so much, so then I need to make sure that I have all this extra cash to throw at it.
Correct.
You know?
Yep. But money's not everything.
Okay.
So there's other options, you know. Maybe the people want to stay for 30 days to get their stuff out. So maybe you say, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and say, yeah, go ahead and stay for a month, rent free, move your stuff out. You know, maybe the cash person's like, no, we want 10 days. We
Yeah.
want it in 10 days. You got to be out in 10 days. So maybe that's something that you can do.
Evil cash.
You know, it's not always cash. It's not always about the money either.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, especially if you have a good agent, you know, they're going to explain that, whether you're on the buying side or the selling side. We're going to explain the fact that, hey, you know, it's not always about money. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes you get 4 of the same offer, the exact same. And how do you pick that, you know?
Right.
I mean, are you just throwing a dart at them? And whichever one is, do you pick the one that came in first? Or, you know, that's something that gladly I don't have to do.
Yeah.
That's up to them. But, you know, it's hard. It's hard out there. Pre-approved. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely
Get
get
pre-approved.
And even if you're paying cash, get your cash in order. Like, don't have it in 17 different places. You know, that takes time. And the seller's not going to give you keys if they can't get the money at closing, you know. Yeah. Get your ducks in a row.
Get your ducks in a row, and then if you're wanting to be a new agent, what are you telling them? Hey, I want to be a real estate agent. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know I can make $1 million doing it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, eventually you can. Be ready to be your own boss, which sounds great in theory, but it's very difficult to hold yourself accountable. But if you can do that, do it, because you will be successful. If you can hold yourself accountable and you can do the work, you're going to do great. You're going to, even if you don't know anyone here, you're going to do awesome if you can do those things. You know, go to work every day. I know working from home sounds amazing. Don't do it.
I couldn't do it.
It's impossible to get anything done in this business. I mean, I'm sure there's other businesses where you can work online and you know, I can't show a house from my living room, right? So I got to go to work and work. Hold yourself accountable.
Tell the people where they can find you, brother.
Dwelling Realty, Keller Williams, Northern Michigan, 369 River Street, Manistee, downtown, where all the action is.
Yeah.
Just down the street from Manistee Beverage.
I'm going to put all your links in the show notes so you'll be able to track them down, give them a call. We love Brandon Ball. He's my best boy. Thanks for coming.